Hello, welcome to the introduction to active learning. Kathee Scoggin will be our presenter today. Kathee Scoggin is the co-director of the Washington Deafblind Project. She provides training and targeted follow-up to families and educators around Washington State. She is a highly requested presenter on topics relating to children with multiple disabilities and combined vision and hearing loss. She holds a BA in Deaf Education and a Master's in Special Education with an emphasis on sensory disabilities. She's here to share some of her wisdom, otherwise known as evidence-based practices from the field of deafblindness. Welcome, Kathee.
Thanks, Katie. So, welcome to all of you, and this is going to be a short introduction to this four-part. So this will not be an hour and a half long. This will only be a few minutes, and then you'll hit the next recording for Active Learning Part 1. So today what we're going to do is talk about strategies for facilitating active learning in students with multiple disabilities. And the strategies that are going to be demonstrated are ones that are evidence-based, have been field tested by a variety of people across the U.S. and other countries of what works for children with multiple disabilities and a combined vision and hearing loss. So with that, we'll get started. What I'd like you to do is imagine that someone gave you the address for a party to go to. It's 4682 Main Street. And a limo picks you up and takes you to the address. Sounds like fun to me. Here's the catch. You can't hear and you can't see. So put yourself in the mindset that you're not able to hear or see. You can select one person to be with you. Now, think about that and say, who would that person be for me? And why? Why would I pick that person? I'm going to give you a minute or two to think about that. Might even jot it down for yourself. Now, with that person in mind, I'm going to go back here. With that person in mind, what are some of your answers of why you picked that person? So some of the people that were at the live recording said things like, I would pick somebody I know really well, somebody's husband or wife, a good friend. Another person said that they would pick somebody who really knows how to party well. Now, here are some of the reasons when I asked the question why. Here are some of the answers I got. Why did you pick that person? Because I trust that person. They know what I like and what I don't like. They would keep me safe. I think they would try to help me understand what is happening at the party. And they wouldn't just walk off and leave me. So I'd like you to think, as we're going through this, I'd like you to be thinking about that child with multiple disabilities and be thinking about why would they want to pick you as the person. Now you're at the party. You still can't see or hear. So imagine what you might do to let that person who you took with you know that you were thirsty. Or do you just wait, hoping that they'll bring you something? Do you see the difference between the two? The first one is about my actively doing something. Okay, I'm going to let that person know that I'm thirsty. And the second way is passive, is I'm just sitting there waiting, hoping somebody's going to do something. How many of you are working with children who would take the second one down because that's what they have been doing for a very long time if you have an older student, or they've been doing for a short time because they're younger. So keep thinking about this idea of passive. We're talking about active. We're talking about helping the child become an active learner, not someone who passively just waits for someone to do something to or for them. So relationship is the basis for the use of the active learning strategies. This is well known in the field of deafblindness, as well as those of us who work with kids who are medically fragile, have traumatic brain injury, or have multiple disabilities, or a combination of those three. If there is no relationship, and you all just thought through, why would I pick that person to take me to the party? You thought about someone that you trust. You thought about somebody you have a relationship with. You all didn't say, oh, I picked, somebody I've never heard of. You all picked somebody you knew well. Okay? Relationship is, you can use phrases like developing a relationship, interaction with the person, initiating contact. Those are all parts of that whole relationship thing. What does it take to make a connection with someone? So I want you to think about that in your own life, not necessarily in the lives of the children, although you can think about that too. But what does it take to make a connection with someone? What it takes, here were some of the answers. For the child, the child has to be alert enough to take in stimulation and information. If the child's half asleep, if the child's so angry or upset that they're crying and distressed, they are not in an alert state that they're available to take in information. Another thing is the child becoming aware that somebody is there and attending to them. How do I let the child know I'm there besides maybe standing in front of them? I might slide my hand under their hand or right next to their hand. Or if their feet work better than their hands do, I might even put my hand next to their foot. Or I might bring my hand up in front of them if they have some vision and actually touch their cheek if I know that that's a place they like to be touched. The child has to be aware that there's somebody there. And the child has to be able to start to be able to anticipate what's going to come next. If I'm a stranger, they have no idea what I'm going to do next, and that puts them in a state of anxiety. And when I'm in a state of anxiety, I'm not available for stimulation and information. So for the adult or the peer, what does it take to make and develop that relationship and make that contact? I have to know the child's likes and dislikes. If I start doing something that they don't like to them right away, well, I think my chance of really having a relationship is really postponed and delayed. Having a common topic for connecting. What is it that the child does that I might be able to imitate so that we can start to have a conversation back and forth with each other? Being aware of the child's temperament. Does this child need me to move very slowly and very delicately? Does this child need deeper pressure? Does this child like to be strongly stimulated? So if I go ahead and start rocking them firmly versus gently? Being willing to wait for a response. Being able to sit and be quiet with the child and see what they do in response to my connection. And I need to be aware of the environment. Are there lots of distractions for the child? Does the child feel safe? Those are all different things that help lead to a relationship being developed. And without relationship, active learning will not occur, especially for this group of kids. And if you think about it for yourself with somebody else, or you think about it with a child, let's say a new student in your class, this is really important pre-stuff you need. So, here's my question. Developing a relationship. Why is connection or developing a relationship or the basis for active learning? Is it A, the child needs consistency of contact with a person? B, the child needs to feel safe? C, the child needs to trust the person in order to be open to learning new concepts and skills? Or D, all of the above? I'm hoping that you picked D, all of the above, because we're talking about consistency, and that's the child being able to anticipate. We talked about safety, and we also talked about trust. Now, we're going to be watching a video. So when you are looking at this first video, I want you to observe the child and jot down what he does without any assistance or cueing from anyone else.
Christopher, no sleeping. Okay. It's up here, come on. Good job. Good job.
So let's talk about Christopher. What kinds of things suggested to you that you saw or didn't see a relationship between those two people from what you could see? It's a very short video, but give some thoughts to it. Comfortably sitting in her lap and smiles when she rocks him. Okay, so we're back onto the PowerPoint slides, and when we get to the next video, we'll play the next video. Somebody said, could you go back and play it one more time? Yeah, you know, we can do that, but I think that one of the things you might think about is going back and watching it once we put it up to replay the whole thing. Not resisting her putting on his braces. Okay, so the AFOs that he had that she wanted him to put on, it would suggest that he was comfortable, he wasn't resisting. Those are some other thoughts. Okay? It seemed like when she reached to hug or rock him, he smiled. He seemed very comfortable with her. She knew to adjust, to move his brace. He lifted up his leg for her to put on the brace, and evidence of her waiting long enough for him to show her that he could actively do something instead of me just putting the AFO on him without having him participate in any way. Christopher was happy and smiling. He seemed comfortable. Those are some of those things that we talked about earlier about you're going without vision and hearing to the party and the person you're going to take with you. Let me go on to what does it take to make a connection with somebody? How do you make a connection with someone? So with that, we've got the idea, that the child, it takes the child being alert enough to take in stimulation information. What was it that Kelly said to him? She said, Christopher, no sleeping. She knew that his alert level wasn't quite up to where she knows he needed to be. The child becoming aware that someone is there and attending to them. The child being able to anticipate what will come next. And the adult or peer, what does it take from them? Knowing the child's likes and dislikes. Kelly knew that he loves to rock back and forth. She also knows that he likes a sing-songy voice. His hearing loss is such that he picks up the intonation. Christopher, no sleeping. That kind of intonation he can pick up, not necessarily the words. Being aware of the child's temperament. Being willing to wait for a response, which is what Kelly did, waiting for him to bring his foot up to go into the AFO. Being aware of the environment, its distractions, and if the child feels safe.
and it's clear that many of you saw that he definitely looked comfortable and probably safe. Okay. Why is connection or developing a relationship the basis for active learning? And I'm going to show you 2 other videos before you answer that question for me. So let's go to video number 2. And I would like you to take a look at this young lady. And I'd like you to also, again, just as you did with Christopher, I want you to look for what kind of relationship. Do you see evidence of a relationship in this video? Okay, so we'll press play now. The triangles should be down in the lower left-hand corner. You should see a young woman, dark hair, in a wheelchair, and somebody with a plaid shirt in front of her. Press play now. Okay, is anybody willing to identify by typing in the chat window something that suggested that either the child did have a relationship with that person or not? And what was it that you noticed that indicated that to you? A reaction, a reach toward a book, a tap, and repeated after adult model. She watched and reached for items, a routine. Maybe that she looked at the assistant, a willingness to participate. I didn't see much of a relationship. Difficult to tell, but it did not seem that the child wanted any of the items and then protested by pounding on it. She seemed calm. The adult moved the book a little closer. So one of the things, so it sounds like people are not quite as sure. She had a thinking posture. She made me think that maybe she was engaged. She waited till the assistant left before she opened the book. So you're all making some interesting observations with that. So with this young woman who was given the choice of the toy, the slinky, or the book by the adult, she put her hand on the book, and that was taken as an indication that that's what she wanted. The other 2 items were removed and put back in a box. And then the aide or adult said that they needed to leave and that they would be back later. And then she hit her hand several times onto that book, and finally opened it and kind of breezed through a couple pages. It was a cardboard. So one of those things that I want to suggest to you is I would agree, if we look over at the PowerPoint, the child becoming aware that someone is there and attending to them, and then when he left, she finally, after doing what I would agree was a bit of a protest by just kind of hitting the book, she finally opened it. All right, the question is, what kind of a relationship does she have with that adult? Did you see eye contact? Did you see tactile joint attention together on something, so that possibly that adult would have left their hand close to hers, so that that would have been a way she could have connected with him if her vision wasn't good enough? In this case, I'll share with you that her vision was good enough for them to make eye contact. I didn't see any eye contact. So those are some things that I'm looking for. Now, obviously, this adult knew some of the things she likes, and so she was selecting from 3 things that he knew she liked. However, once she made the choice, it was backing out of any interaction. And I think many times when we give children choices, we make an assumption that we then move out of that and let them play with the item. And for some children, it's more important for them to have the connection with you almost than it is to have the item, or to share reading the book together and saying something about it, or trying to find something in the book. Being willing to wait for a response, and the aide did. So those are some things that you want to think about when I want to think about when I'm trying to establish some kind of a relationship with a student. If I don't try to make some joint attention, whether it's eye contact or whether it's tactile contact or however I make that contact, if I don't do that, I'm losing an opportunity to start to develop a relationship. It's just, here's the activity, here's the goal and objective, now you make a choice of 3 things and then you go play with that thing. When really, maybe she really wanted to connect with the adult and the book was just the thing, the topic, so to speak. So for you, when you were back at that party, it's what drink do I want? Well, I took somebody with me who knows what I like to drink. So those are important things. So I want to show you another video, and this is the 3rd video. And this is about starting a relationship. This is the first day that I had ever met Glenn, and I had a chance to see a video of him and watch that he had a lot of movement in his upper body with his hands and his arms. And I was trying to figure out, he was in his preschool class, and I was trying to figure out how I could start to develop a relationship or connect with him, because I wasn't going to see him all the time. I'm not one of the people who comes in on a weekly basis and works with the child. I may only come in a couple times a year, or maybe once a month for 3 months, and then not till the end of the school year. So that's an important piece, is who really needs to make the relationship and develop the relationship with the child. So this was me trying to see what I could do to engage him and see whether or not we could do some connection, or if he was just going to say, not you, lady, I don't know you, so forget it. So if you could press play now.
We're doing that this week. When do you think you're big enough to learn your middle name? You're going to see the teacher's logo on there. Caleb, Noble, and Terry. You have an L. Such interesting middle names. You sure do, Caleb. Good afternoon. Glenn. I can't believe this.
What is his?
Look at his middle name is so similar. Noble and Nolan. That's very similar. Glenn. Now this is different than yesterday. Glenn, do you have an O in your name? That's it, Glenn. Thumbs up, you're right. And good afternoon, Glenn.
Glenn has a
Yeah. John.
Okay, again, I'll ask you the question. Are there any things that indicated to you the possibility that Glenn was even remotely interested in me? And I don't mean me as Kathee, but me as that person with the hands. And if so, what would you say they were? And for those of you who weren't aware, the thing that I was pushing down on is one of those things you put gel in and toys, and you seal it, and you can push up and down on it. And it's often used for kids for visual purposes as well as tactile. He continued some touch once he rested his hand on yours, knowing someone is there with him. He continued to clap your hand. He stayed on your hand, left your hand, and came back again. He maintained connection with your hands. He seemed happy. When he couldn't find your hand, it seemed like he was trying to find it. Those are all rested his hand on yours a couple times and then investigated your hand. Those are all good comments, because that's what indicated to me that if there was somebody willing to go where he wanted to go, and that was with his hands up in the air. And the thing I thought about was, gosh, you know, they had that thing laying on his tray, and I thought, well, I'll push it once his hands come down. And it was clear to me that he was interested in me, and I don't mean me personally, but the person who was there. But I have to tell you again, you know, I said to you earlier about the idea of making you know, you make mistakes all the time. I looked at that video of myself and I went, oh my gosh, it just went too fast. I should have slowed down. I should have stayed with him. And so know that no matter how you think it went, if you go back and videotape and look, you learn important things about yourself. And I would recommend to all of you, no matter how terrifying that is to get video footage of you or whoever the person is who works best with the child, and get some video footage for all of you to watch. Take a chance. Okay. Those are, I just wanted to bring up that one about how do you start to have a relationship. You have a common thing that you're interested in, and he was interested in the idea of clapping. I also, for those of you who might be physical therapists and occupational therapists, you know, I kind of saw the tonic neck reflex thing and wondered, you know, gosh, am I going to just set that thing off, or, you know, will he be able to overcome it? So some other things like that happened for me when I was watching it too. So that tonic neck is bringing the one arm up and the other one goes out. So I just wanted to think about too. So I'm going to have Michaela switch over to, you get to vote A, B, C, or D. It's going to be in the same location that the check and the cross are. So here's my question. Why is connection or developing a relationship the basis for active learning? A, the child needs consistency of contact with a person. B, the child needs to feel safe. C, the child needs to trust the person in order to be open to learning new concepts and skills. Or D, all of the above. So put in your vote. I see a lot of D's. Great. That is exactly right. It's all of the above. And I'm pressing this whole thing about relationship because when we talk about it, and then those of us who are working in the classroom, we go in, we see that some of us are so busy or feel like we're forced to be so busy getting that objective accomplished that we lose the relationship with the child, and then we can't make progress in certain areas so that he can. Okay, we're going to now show another video, but this time I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different from that. I want you to watch this video clip, and it's coming up shortly. And this is a little boy who is with his father, and I want you to look for everything you see him doing all by himself, not modeled by his dad, not done by his dad, but that it comes from him, okay? And it can be vocalizing, it can be movement, it can be anything. But what is it that this child does? And I'm going to ask you to type some of those ideas that you have of what you did see in there. I think we're ready, so find the button and push play now.
Open. 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 Yeah. Open. Open. Shut. No. Oh, let's tip it upside down. Out they come. We shut. Let's turn it sideways to make it harder. Oh, that's not too.
Okay, some of you already started the approximation of open, flipping the lid, reaching in. Dumped out the toys, put one in, and there was a slot at the top. Grab toy, puts toy in slot. Grabs Dad's hand and starts to put the object in the jar. Said open. Vocalizations. Tried to open the lid. Lifts the container, shuts the lid. Initiated vocalizing. Tried to open, shut it. Took an item out, put the item in, stopped the interaction. Tried to get Dad's hand to help. Open again. Yes, there it was. Oops, somebody else is, I think, talking about the video. All right, and reaches for Dad's hand, touched Dad's hand. Grabbed a toy, opened the jar, and vocalized. So one of the things that we saw was also some imitation on his part. When Dad said open, he went, oh. Okay, so the idea of open. So that was some imitation on his part. The things that he truly did by himself was some beginning vocalization before Dad started with him. Certainly putting the little red toy into the slot. Starting to dump it out. So once again, I want you to look at the idea that that's the active part. Now, what is it that Dad did? Okay, and please remember, I am not criticizing people at all. This could have been me doing this. What was it that Dad did that interfered with more active learning on his part? Yeah, there wasn't a lot of wait time. So as soon as the child started to dump, Dad helped finish dumping it. Okay? Is Dad bad? No. So please don't walk away from this thinking, oh my gosh. But I'm just telling you that we all do it all the time for this group of students. We do things when all we need to do is wait. Often went to the next step before the child had a chance to get in there, diving in too quickly, moved quickly. However, I'm going to go back and talk about a relationship. Do you say this dad has a relationship with his son? Yeah, definitely has. Definitely has. And that's so important. Absolutely. Everybody's agreeing. There is a relationship there. The comfort the child has, and I say great for Dad, okay? So I want you to understand that when we talk about things that we might not see or see where we jump in too quickly, put yourself in that person's position, and most of us would say, yes, I probably would have done the same thing. So I'm going to keep pushing that a little bit because I don't want you walking away thinking, oh, look at how picky she is. I'm not talking about picky. I'm talking about how we assist the child in being an active learner. Okay. So what is active learning? It's been discussed for hundreds of years, especially in relationship to toddlers and young children and how they learn best. Also, there's a great deal of this discussion, interestingly, among high school and post-secondary school in college and stuff, which I thought was kind of interesting when I did a little bit of checking on this. So it started with Plato and Aristotle, Rousseau, Froebel, Montessori, Nielsen. You may not be familiar with Nielsen, some of you probably are, and that's Lily Nielsen. And I want to talk just briefly about her because some of the things that you're going to see over the next 3 weeks, actually 4 weeks, are things that she did research on, tried with children who were blind and having other disabilities, and found and did some research to find what worked best. So some of the devices I'll show you are things that she started with. Some are things that were here a long time before she came, but since she got involved in the field of kids with multiple disabilities with a vision loss, there are certain things that people just equate with her. So I want to be real clear about that. Also, Jan van Dijk also has some very interesting ways of approaching children. And for those of you who've been working with the kids, and you know one of the things you do is you might be bouncing the child on your lap, and then you stop, and then you wait for them to either vocalize or move some way or indicate to you that they want more of it, and then you start bouncing them again and say, oh, you want to bounce some more? Okay, let's bounce some more. That is a typical technique that Jan van Dijk started using years and years and years ago. So I want you, those two people are very well known in the area of deafblindness. But no matter what it is, we talk about active learning being a combination of the body and the brain. And even now in 2008, 2009, and now that there's more brain research, we are finding the brain research is showing that what these people did and said a long time ago is absolutely true. There is no division between your body and your mind. Your body and your mind are together. They're one thing. It's also, active learning is talking about the idea that you are you are acting on objects, or you're acting or interacting with people and events. That's another aspect that people talk about with active learning. Physical activity stimulates the brain. Okay? So if I sit still in my seat work and I'm doing all seat work, that increases my fatigue, okay, and it also reduces my concentration. And all of us have that experience. Sitting here for an hour and a half, I'm sure that unless some of you are standing up and eating popcorn and doing a dance, since I can't see you, you may be doing just what you should be doing instead of sitting here and getting more fatigued. What we know is that the more you can move, the more oxygen, water, and glucose gets to the brain, which feeds the brain, and that optimizes your performance. How many of you have been dog-tired and you get home and decide you're going to go for a walk, and you go for a walk and you come back and you feel energized? That's a good example for us. And I'm going to use examples with us because the reality of it is we all need to be looking at that piece, because anything I can say about the children that we're talking about, we can say about ourselves. It's no different. Okay, let me go on. So what do we mean by active learning? For our purposes over the next 4 sessions, learning in which the child is acting on objects and interacting with people, idea, and events, and they're constructing new meaning, doing something for himself or herself or some part of it, learning by doing in movement, even if it's a slight movement. So for some of you who are working with kids who may be very physically involved, do not make an assumption that this will not work for them. Learning creation of more neural networks in the brain and throughout the whole body. So the more I move to do something, even a slight movement, I am building those neural networks and making it more automatic. The entire body is a tool for learning. And of course, all of this is way more fun for the kids, and probably for us too. So what is necessary for active learning? A relationship, which we've talked about, that interactions, the connectedness. A responsive environment that involves observation of the student and providing practice opportunities and new challenges. And we're going to be getting to those halfway through the next session and then the last two sessions, talking about what can we do in the environment, how can we arrange the environment that makes that child be more active. And third is communication, nonverbal, verbal, sign, doesn't matter. And all of those three things put together make up active learning. Now I just want to do a quick reminder about challenges. Remember that some of the challenges for this group of students are mastering basic concepts, communication, orientation and mobility for children with visual impairment, developmental impacts, academics, social skills, independence, living and vocational skills, isolation, stress, and frustration. So I just want to remind us that for those of you who have been to some of the past trainings, we've talked about some of these challenges for the children. So I'm going to go back and, no, I'm not. I'm actually going to go forward. So I want to talk a little bit about passivity, because the opposite of active learning is passive. I'm being passive. I'm not doing anything. So there are risks for passivity, and they include the lack of initiation by a child when a child initiates nothing, the lack of participation or persistence by the child. If the child persists, will he persist in doing something till he gets it? Motoric restriction. We talked about the physical disability part. Dependence on prompts. People prompting and prompting and prompting us till the point becomes that the prompt becomes part of the routine of eating, or the prompt with a hand of doing something else. I'm going to stop right there because I'd like to go to the video, and it's a very short video, so let me talk about it before I show it to you. I want you to think in terms of passive, and we just talked about dependence on prompts. So we're waiting for the video to come up, which it is, and here's the description. There are two adults who are standing on either side, one adult on each side of the student. They are standing at a sink that has two dividers so that there's a tub on one side and a tub on the other. There's silverware there, and the goal is for the student to be washing and rinsing the silverware. So I want you to watch this. There is no sound to it, but I want you to watch this short video, and I want you to put yourself in this place, and I want you to imagine what you would be thinking as you're doing this activity. So with that, we're going to press play now. So I'd like to go back and have us play that one more time. So if you're done watching the first time and you can see it, I'd like you to press play now again. Okay, one person said, are there two adults helping her? And the answer is yes. There was one on either side of her. The adult is doing the moving for the child. It's too fast. She moves his hand when he was trying to get his bearings and explore where he was. Bummer. Too many adults helping. Should only be one. No free hand to ground self or to verify. It would feel like people are grabbing my arms, that I'm not doing an activity. They're not letting her do anything. She appeared to try to wiggle and use touch, but was redirected by the adult. The child grabbed the spoon himself. He went to put it independently in his other hand, and the adult jumped in and did it for him. Adult did not give child time enough. No time, no wait to see if the child will move without the prompt. A thought of a marionette. I'd get mad. What happened to learning through play? Those are great comments. No wait time. So that whole idea of the dependence on prompts, what you might want to know is that this student doesn't do hardly anything because of this amount of prompting. And I'm going to go through just a real quick story because I think it's important, and that is a student was about 17 years old, and this is when I was working in a program in Arizona, and one of the things that happened was she would not go to pick up the next bite of food without somebody tapping her elbow. And so she would put the spoon back down, and then she would not pick it up no matter how long anybody waited for her to go ahead and to feed herself. And what we decided to do with consultation with the family, we said, okay, if we make sure she gets plenty of fluids, is it okay if we just wait her out? And after 3 days of taking only 2 bites, and those were both prompted by us, I called the family and said we were going to stop it, that we weren't going to continue with it. We looked for something that she was way more motivated, and she was not particularly motivated by food. And so we looked for a motivator that really got her past waiting for the prompt. But one of the things somebody suggested to me was that the prompt becomes part of the routine, that she, in her brain, is thinking, I have to wait for that thing tapping my elbow because that's what makes me be able to scoop and feed myself. And that may seem ridiculous, but it is not. And it's part of what you're going to see over the next 4 sessions of things so that the child acts on things by themselves and not always us being engaged with it. Okay. Last few things on here, few known motivators for the child. When you hear somebody say, oh, this child doesn't like anything, that concerns me. What children do versus what others think they can do, seeking others to do for them. And someone suggested to me that, and I think I finally saw it with several people, and that was if somebody takes something away from you often enough and does it for you, the information you get is, I can't do it, I'm not capable, I'm stupid, basically. And we all talk about teenagers letting us do everything for them, but the question is, did that really happen when they were younger, and that it's not just an issue of being a typical teenager? Avoiding interaction with adults. I want to avoid with you because I can't predict you. History of failure, constantly not doing anything. Refusal to make choices. People say, well, he just doesn't want to make a choice. And my response is, well, then maybe those things are motivating enough to him. Limited responses to unpredictable occurrences, depression, and a refusal to try new experiences. So those are all the risk factors for this whole learned helplessness stuff. Passivity in children, often children with multiple disabilities, and or intensive medical challenges are done 2 and 4. So much of the time that they remain inactive partners in their own life and learning, and often develop this learned helplessness. Okay. Strategies. Whoops. Did something get lost here? Oh. There's actually a slide that got left out, and I'm sure it was my fault, but it talks about ways to prevent learned helplessness. And so I'm just double checking, and it doesn't look like it's here. So I will make sure I get it in here before Michaela sends it out to you tomorrow. Strategies that demand active learning. You need these strategies so that when we start talking about devices and things that you can use, that you remember you need to use strategies. The device itself is useless without some of these strategies. So using time that the child is alert and learning ready, So we talked about Kelly, who was rocking Christopher back and forth saying, "Christopher, no sleeping." So that concept of I need to get you into an alert enough state. Then, just a second. So, is this child available for learning? Here's the deal. We really want the child in an active, it can be a quiet, active, alert state for learning. So when that child is crying and crying and crying, the reality of it is that child's not ready. If the child is happy and so tickled about something, at that very moment, wait and let them be tickled and let them laugh and enjoy themselves. And then go back to what it is you're trying to have them engaged in for learning. What about that child who tends to be sleepy or has just worked so hard they're fatigued, they're tired, and it's not about you needing to have them lie down for a nap. It is about you engaging them in something else that will start to get their system more alert. And for some students, that can be taste things. It can be smells that alert them, and they're more alert to be with you. And I many times with kids who have a lot of physical involvement, I have to ask the family, like, now, what kind, do you say he's tired? Do you think he's just on the verge of sleep? I ask a lot of questions of people to figure out, is this a state of alertness for this child? If it isn't, if the kid's screaming, I don't know about you, but let me tell you, if my husband has just said something to me that's upsetting me, okay, that I got upset about, and I'm mad, that is not a good time for him to have a conversation with me, and it's not a good time for me. It's time for me to say, let's talk about this in a few minutes when I can calm down and listen to what you have to say, because right now I can't hear you. So, we all joke about that thing of sticking your fingers in your ear and go, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. Well, that's a little bit like it. They can't hear us. So you've got to watch for that state of alertness. Secondly, it's about finding the child's likes. So I sent you a likes and dislikes form, and there was an example on there for you. And so one of the things I'd like us to do is keep that in mind as we're watching some videos. Remember, I'm going to ask you, if when you look at that form, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen, what is one activity that you might do based on this child's likes, if he's 3 years old, if he's 9 years old, if he's 15 years old, or if he or she is 20 years old. So let's just go to, I want to do a couple likes videos as reminders to people. So we're going to go to the next video. Okay, some of you who have attended other sessions, I've used it, but I'm going to ask a different question. So I'd like you to watch this video. This is a young man, and I'd like you to be thinking about that whole question of likes and dislikes, and what do you think he likes, and is there a dislike that you can see? So let's watch now. Press play now. So, Stephanie says that she saw lots of praise. He likes the praise from the people around him and having those people around him. He likes pushing the wheelbarrow, indicated he wanted to do it when the man in, I'm not sure what the word is, started to do so, or started to help. The boy unloads the wood and then curls up in the wheelbarrow for a ride. He has fun too. He loves pushing the wheelbarrow. The applause like pushing the wheelbarrow. He seemed to be having fun. He likes pushing the wheelbarrow and loves riding in it. So, doesn't like picking up the chunks of wood as much. Attention, getting a ride. He doesn't resist any of this. I keep wanting to see at least one of the others joining him in loading the wood. One of the things you might be, some of you may be aware of, is that he brought his thumb against his chest, which is like myself. I want to do it myself. And so that's a sign that's used, and so that may be why people backed off, because of him signing myself. This student is also profoundly deaf and has a vision impairment, but he did know that there were people cheering him on, and he felt good. So imagine what is it about this activity that you think might be alike. And we talked about the issue of the wheelbarrow, the fact that he got a reward by being taken in the wheelbarrow and being able to flop into it when he was done, so somebody'd push him back to the pile of wood. So those are some things I want you to think about. If he had been sitting at his desk doing seat work, you may not have seen him as willing to do work as he was, because his body and mind were engaged together and he was making conceptual connections for himself. And those are some things that I want you to be thinking about too. Those were definite likes of his. And whether or not he liked putting the wood in by himself or not, I'm not sure. But I think that that was part of it, and it may not have been his favorite thing in the beginning, but as it became a more regular, frequent, repeated thing, he all of a sudden was starting to get it. And he saw that as part of the routine. This is my routine of bringing firewood up to my grandmother's patio. So let's go back to, just a second. All right, let's look at this. And you have this in front of you, hopefully. And if not, I hope you can read the screen. And that is, I showed you some things that this student, Gilbert, really likes. And that's not the student you just saw. This is another student. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at something that you see that he likes. And I'd like you to think of something that would be an activity that you could do that it could incorporate his like. So we'll just take a minute or so and think in terms of a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 20-year-old. Doesn't matter how old. It just matters how might you use one of those likes. Yeah, here's one. A count using popsicle sticks. If he likes cold popsicles, maybe he does counting with the popsicle sticks and gets a popsicle later. Any other thought? Bouncing on the therapy ball after PT. He likes bouncing. Learn signs by naming foods, the foods that he likes, learning those signs. Delivering mail, pushing a heavy cart. That idea of pushing something heavy, such as the wheelbarrow for Drew. For some students, that's how they really know they are connected and that they have lots of weight there that they can work with, and that they like because it's that sensory feedback into their body called proprioception. Washing dishes with warm water and rinsing with cold. A vibrator on the back and the head. A light box. Punching pots and pans play involving his like of heavy metal things and music. Do you mean heavy metal music? Being able to listen to music as a reward after work. Might even be during work. And it may be set up that as long as he works, the music plays. And when he stops working, the music stops playing. Smells in film canisters to learn how to open the canisters. Yeah, the smells may be what really makes him learn or persevere or persist in getting that smell. Figures of family, swinging on a net swing after completing a task. Those are all ways that you can incorporate those likes. You don't have to just look at one like and say, oh, okay, he likes popsicles. We'll make sure he has popsicles during snack time. Popsicle, I mean, that's a great thought. You know, the popsicles, he's got the concept of these sticks coming out of the popsicle that he eats, and it means something to him. And those are important pieces so that he can take what you're talking about and put it together and have it mean something to him. Okay? Now we're going to quickly look at slide 35, and this was dislikes for the student, but I'm going to go on to the next video, and I'd like you to look at, this happens to be a student who is communicating using pictures and pointing to pictures during her mealtime. And you're going to see the teacher offer her something, which happens to be a cold can of pop, to have. And this is going to be her response. So pay attention to her response. This is not a real long video clip. That's why I wanted to preface it with that. So let's look at a dislike and how a teacher used that. Press play now.
Okay. Do you want a drink, Aaron? Here, do you want a drink? No, you have to tell me no. Thank you. No.
Let's play that one more time, okay? Because it's so quick.
Okay. Do you want a drink, Aaron? Here, do you want a drink? No, you have to tell me no. Thank you. No.
And what Aaron was pointing to was a picture symbol that indicated no. It was a big red X. So that's what she was pointing to when the teacher said, you have to let me know. No. So that's one of those things where the teacher took a dislike. So what do you think it is that Aaron dislikes? Could be pop, cold. It could be cold pop, something that's cold. So the teacher gave her additional information by pressing that can next to her arm so she could feel it. And her association with the cold, kind of sweaty can and the shape of the can is that it's pop, and she does not like carbonated beverages in a can. So good. So that's one of the things that you want to look at is how can I use the dislikes. Do I want to do dislikes when I first meet a child? No, I don't want to do that because I lose the chance to have a relationship with them. If I met you for the first time and all I wanted to do was talk about my grandchildren, the next time you saw me in a crowd, the last thing you'd probably want to do is talk to me because it's about my grandchildren. So the reality of it is I don't want to start off with that. I want to find something common that we can connect on and that I know the child likes. Okay. So we've talked about the issue of a level of alertness of the child, their likes and dislikes. Now we're talking about imitation of the child or following his or her lead. Why would we want to imitate the child? I mean, we want them to imitate us, don't we? If I'm trying to get them to say "buh" or "ball," I want them to imitate me. Why would I want to imitate them? To reinforce a positive action, right? To teach them to be a leader, to take initiative, good. To show acceptance, confirmation or confirming that you saw what they did, conversation and relationship, because the child learns to imitate by us imitating them. That's right. That's also a good comment, is how do I model imitation if I don't imitate them first? To build a relationship, to show what not to do in some cases. Shared interest shows interest in the child. Those are all good reasons. What happens after we imitate the child on a frequent basis? What is it that we want to do next? Helps you to understand maybe why they do a certain action or movement. That's right. If I imitate, sometimes I go, oh, no wonder they like that. One person said, the next thing I might want to do after I've done that imitation a lot might be that I want to build on that action by maybe adding one of my actions. So if, for example, with Glenn, when we were going up and down and I was like, we were hitting the hand and stuff like that, what do I want to add when we've done that? I might do a quick little thing where I go under his arms and I do a clap with myself, okay? Or I might want to do something else. For a child who likes toys, and only one kind of toy, after a while when they play with it, I might tie a little jingle bell or something on its wrist. It might be a doll or something, just to make it a little different and to add something new to suggest, oh, how about we do this? We also, yes, it is about a conversation. When we were working on just even hitting that, that was beginning to say, let's have a conversation about this. Okay, we're both talking about the same thing. It's about clapping and moving our hands up and down. That's a nonverbal conversation that says, hi, let's take turns back and forth, sharing with each other. That's what a conversation is. A slightly change that imitation to get them to do something a little new, or for them to notice something new, and for a while they may not be willing to do it, but when you repeat it, but don't insist they do, it may be that the time comes that they will. And those are some of the pieces about imitation and what to do next with imitation. It's not just imitation of the child for that sake. The idea is further down the road there are some other things you can do. And what do we expect the child to learn from our imitating? And some of you already had some great answers, to encourage initiation, showing interest, developing a relationship. There were many other great suggestions. So I'm going to go on with that. And what I'd like to do, I thought so, is we'd like to show you another video. And this is an example of imitation. And what I'd like you to think about is look at what the adult is doing during this activity, and also think about what you think might be on this child's likes list if you were filling out a likes and dislikes form. So this is an instructional aide who's working with the student, and we'll go ahead and push play now. So First of all, I'd like to correct myself. The person working with him was his teacher, and thanks, Kelly, for reminding me of that. I appreciate that. What do you think was on this student's like list based on watching this? Yeah, he loves bright lights or flashlights, probably some kind of pattern to it. Good. He may like the feel of the foam board and filtered lights. He may like the tactile touch of it. One person suggested to me that he might like the warmth that the light creates on that foam board. Looking at the light through objects. So those are some of the things that you want to think about. Those are likes, and how do I use it? So with that, I'd like to know also, what did you see the adult doing or not doing? There was no interference by her. Great comment. She wasn't forcing behavior from him or him to do something she wanted him to do. She didn't take it away or override the student following his lead. She imitated him. She was there, and she was close enough to really get him to understand that she was available to him, so that if he wanted to reach out and take her hand and move her hand to something else, that he could actually do that. He knew somebody was there. And so many times when we work with kids, even kids that have, quote, normal hearing and vision but have multiple disabilities, we work across the table from them. We're not close enough to let them know we are here. We assume they use their vision exactly the way we do, and that's not necessarily true. Okay, let's go on to routines. And what I'll let you know is our website, WSDS, www.wsdsonline.org. If you go on the tab at the top that says video, you'll see, when you get to that page, you'll see something about routines, and you can look at the videos that are on routines, and there's printed material that you can actually print off from our website. But I just want to talk about routines because they are so important for our kids. So name a routine that you have set with your student that's not a daily living activity like brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, washing dishes, eating. Just think about a routine you've established with your a student or a child. Using a switch to activate music and then moving the child's chair to dance to music until the music stops. So there's a routine. You've set it up. This is what we do first, second, third, fourth. Taking a student to go pick up their breakfast. That's a routine. Eating breakfast. Any other kinds of routines that you've set. Matching pictures. That's a routine. As long as you're doing something consistently, that's a routine. Okay, some fine motor tasks, getting a book. All right, great. Just wanted to get people thinking. Now here are some required elements for something to be a routine. There needs to be a clear signal to the student that an activity is starting. There need to be steps that occur in the same sequence every time, initially. Each step is done the same way each time, same material, same person, same place. The assistance is given in the same way, always seen where assistance can be lessened over time. The pacing of the instruction is maintained until the activity is finished. So there's no side conversations with somebody. There's no saying, oh my gosh, I forgot, I've got to go get this, this, and this, or spontaneously adding something new or different steps that won't happen the next time that that activity is done. And a clear signal to the student that the activity is done. So those are all things that you need to look at in a routine to see whether or not that is actually happening. Now, you will not be able to see if all of these elements are in this next video clip, but what I want you to think about is, for many of us, getting the child to purposefully move is crucial, And what happens is we often don't think about how it can be used with a like of the students. So again, you're going to see a like of the students. But I want you to think about the fact that the routine is done in the same place in the classroom, with the same person, with the same materials. There is a beginning, which you didn't see, that she indicated was a beginning, and she is fulfilling some of the goals and objectives that were established by the physical therapist. So this is Kelly and Christopher, and it's about crawling. So you're going to see Kelly's arm or hand go back to going to one of his hips, which tend to help him do the crawling, but as little as possible. So push play now.
Good job. Come on. Look, here's your slinky. We're not done. There you go. Come on. Come on. Great job, Christopher. Good job. Come on. You're not quite there. It's right here. It's right here. It's right here. You see it? You're going to walk right over it. You're going to walk right over it. It's right there.
So that's the routine that's established. And I want to show the last video for the evening, and what I want you to know is, I'm not sure I said anything at the beginning, but we do ask that you do an evaluation each time through SurveyMonkey, and it's quick, but it gives us feedback about what things seem to have made sense to you, what things were useful to you, and what things weren't, so that we can change and work and provide information in a better format. So Michaela's just typed that in, so if you'll please do that before we're done, but I do want to show one more video quickly. And this is also a routine, and this happens to be reading the student's schedule routine. And there are pictures up that she's identified, and that when she comes back, she puts that picture into the envelope that's stuck on the side of the cabinet. And I'd like you to look for whether or not you see any things that are not consistent within this routine. Press play now.
We're all done with this one. You can put this in unfinished. That was Jim, remember? We're all done with Jim. You put this in our finished. Put it inside. There you go. Put it in. Here, use that hand. Is that easier? Okay, put it in our finished. Good job. And look, we're all done with library. So that goes in our finished. Janessa, we're all finished with library. Show me where it goes. There you go. Good job. Now what are we going to do? Good job. Now we need to deliver our mail. See right here? That's what we're going to do next. Can you get that one? Pick it up. Movie star. Show them on the movie how well you pick it up.
Let me see your work, Janessa. How does that work? What do you need to do with that, Janessa? Show me the picture.
Get our next picture, our mailing picture. Look over there. This is what we do next. Can you get that picture, please? Pick it up. Janessa, pick up the card. Here, you need to look over here. Look over here. And pick it up, please. Oh, it's not the toilet. Here, that one. That's what we're going to do next. Good. Okay, we'll put it right here, because this is what we're going to do. Where's our envelope?
So consistency of routine. And I just want to briefly go over this. There is consistency of the environment. Was it done in the same environment? There is, consistency of what we say and communicate. There's consistency of the same people. There's consistency of the same materials. There's consistency of any adaptations that we make. There's consistency of the sequence in which we do it. There is consistency of our behavior and our response. So when you look at that, there are some great things that they have established a schedule that she knows exactly what's going to happen every part of the day, which is wonderful. What are some of the things that may not be consistent based on this very short video clip again? Inconsistent positioning, possibly too many verbal cues. She even waited for a physical cue. Too much talking if this is going to be an independent skill. Different instructions every time. Some she handed to her and some Vanessa was expected to pick up. What hand she uses may not be consistent. Having a video there and other people's input may not always be there. She didn't know where the envelope was at the end. The camera. Use of the right and the left hand. Physically moving her head to look. All of the position to the board, a different hand, no simple script. Those are all great comments by you, because no matter what each of us does and what a good job we do in one area, there's always something else for us to be reminded. And so I want you to be thinking about the ideas of how do I make a routine truly consistent when I think of all these items excuse me, that I need to keep in mind for consistency. Excuse me. And with that, I'm going to end the evening. Please remember to go to SurveyMonkey and answer our evaluation questions. And we look forward to the next time, and we're going to finish up with some strategies and then move on to what we call the space for active learning, and I'll explain that a little bit more next time. Some of you are going to recognize this by Lily Nielsen's quote, little room. So see you next week. Hope you all have a great week and a great weekend. Take care. Bye.